This is a brand new industry that's going to transform how people address mental health, and we want to be at the forefront of it. So we've come at this really building a cash flow positive long-term business. We're not looking to raise hundreds of millions of dollars and take a crapshoot on a potential substance that's, maybe gets cashed out in 10 years. We think there's a lot of things that we can do right now to make real cash flow and get real growth and give us an opportunity to build a really real business.
Hey, Matt Stang joins me now, CEO of Delic Holdings, trades on the CSE under the symbol DELC, and trades in the United States under the symbol DELCF. Matt, welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's always a pleasure, Matt. You've been a busy guy since we last chatted in June. Tell us some of the developments that have happened with Delic since we last chatted.
Yeah, sure. So we are now the largest chain of psychedelic wellness clinics in America.
Congratulations.
We announced a deal. We now have 13 clinics under our belt across 9 states, soon to be a bunch more, and completed a large financing with a large institutional investor. So yeah, things are going really great. It's an amazing time to build this infrastructure for psychedelic wellness. We think it's the future of mental health, and it just keeps, the hits keep coming, the affirmations keep coming, the changes and the dynamics of all of the mainstreaming of psychedelics. You look at the biggest show on Hulu is a show about a psychedelic retreat. I mean, it's just, there is a clear delineation that mental health is a huge issue, especially after this pandemic, and psychedelics are one of the only answers we've actually found. So I think it's really an amazing time to be in this space.
Yeah. So the fact that you closed a $7 million private placement with a large institutional investor is kind of indicative to me that there is, institutional grade interest in the space, but there's an increasing number of publicly traded companies that are purporting to be or proposing to be, or they just want to be in the space. And so it's looking a little crowded out there. So, I talk to a lot of psychedelics companies every week, and some of them seem like they're standing still. Delic doesn't seem to be doing that. You guys are really making strides where, with ketamine, with your financial condition and everything, where others are just sort of, seems like they're spinning their tires. So how is it that you're able to keep things moving forward in the absence of, real regulatory progress?
Yeah, sure. Well, our thesis coming into this is that this is a brand new industry that's going to transform how people address mental health, and we want to be at the forefront of it. So we've come at this really building a cash flow positive long-term business. We're not looking to raise hundreds of millions of dollars and take a crapshoot on a potential substance that's, maybe gets cashed out in 10 years. We think there's a lot of things that we can do right now to make real cash flow and get real growth and give us an opportunity to build a really real business. And so, you can see now with this new business that we are consolidating this month, we'll have a, $7.5–8 million run rate on the business. So I think looking at this not as a call it a stock play, but as like a real business, we think that there is so much opportunity to build the framework for the psychedelic revolution. And so we're going to build the infrastructure. We're going to build another 15 clinics in the next 18 months and have a footprint over half the United States, and have a giant web presence with our media company. And we're doing the largest psychedelic event in the world next month in Las Vegas, and really kind of being that, let's call it the dominant player in the space of psychedelic wellness, and allow people to come into our ecosystem, to find their psychedelic wellness on our web platform, to go and actually do it at one of our clinics, to come learn more at one of our events. And we think it's a really great flywheel, right? You put someone into one part of it and it spins them into the rest of the ecosystem and allows us to just keep increasing the revenue and the profitability and the growth, right? And I think this is really a growth story, and I'm super excited about it. And it just makes for a really incredible way to get entree into the psychedelic ecosystem, and not have to wait 7 years to see if the bet is on the right horse for the novel molecule, right? We're going to take a part of any molecule that comes across the finish line. We'll need a clinical model to get distributed out to patients. And so we're going to have the largest one of those in America. And when people need that, they'll come through us. Pretty simple.
Sure. So, in terms of the big pharma participation in the psychedelic space, are they sort of positioning at this point to partner with companies like yours?
Yeah, I mean, I think, all of these things, we have S-ketamine from Johnson & Johnson, which we do at some of our clinics and is for treatment-resistant depression. I think that as these other substances, such as MDMA and psilocybin, get through their phase 3 clinical trials, those will come online and we'll obviously have them offered at our clinics. I think there's a lot of interest from pharma, but I think, they're leaving the grunt work to the kind of biotech psychedelic plays that are just kind of advancing it across to that phase 2, phase 3 and getting it to a point where it's certain enough for what amounts to a bank, the pharma companies or big banks, to bet on, right? So I think that's where it's at right now. I just see, we get to be molecule agnostic and just build a huge platform and a trusted brand and a safe space for people to come and try psychedelic wellness. And that's the biggest thing to me is, the cover of Newsweek 2 weeks ago, right? Psychedelics are the future of mental health. All of these things keep building, the 60 Minutes, the CNN reports. Everyone wants to get into it, but most of these are not allowed, where ketamine is fully approved by FDA and has incredible efficacy for mental health. And so people are looking for a way to get access, and we have a large chain across the country where people can come and get access to psychedelic healing. And so I think it's just, the more that drumbeat comes out, the more people are looking for a place to try it. And that's where we get to really build a large and devoted patient following. And so I think that's just an important part of building out this framework.
Sure. Do you see in the future is the requirement to have a psychedelic experience for mental health reasons? Is that always going to be a clinical setting environment requirement? Or do you think there's ever going to be like, go to get your prescription of ketamine and strap in at home?
It's a great question. I know that Oregon has already legalized psilocybin for therapeutic purposes, and that will allow a non-FDA pathway for psilocybin treatments, right? So I know that's happening. It's going to happen, next year. Well, 2023 is when they're going to roll out the program. Seattle just decriminalized natural psychedelics today. So you've got a lot of places that are looking at this and they're saying, do we need to wait 7 years and lose hundreds of thousands of people to suicide, and millions of families to the the horrors of mental health issues, or do we push something through that allows people to go and get maybe natural substances that have psychedelic properties and do them under a therapeutic model, but not a full FDA compliance model? It's possible. My thought is that there will be some of that, right? There will be some of that loosening, and I think specifically around the naturally occurring psychedelics, because it's hard to say, this mushroom, it's the same thing that happened with cannabis. It grows in the ground, you can smoke it. It's very hard to regulate that. And once there's a ton of health benefits that people see, it becomes almost counterintuitive to lock people up or tell them that this is a crime to do this, right? So it's what is that balance to get to people while keeping them safe and secure from, the problem with psychedelics in the 60s is it got out of control and people didn't have the right set and setting. They didn't have the right guides and containers to really be able to handle things. And people had schismatic breaks. People with, there's a lot of what you do in the mental health profession, which is screening people for the proper usage. And if people have a history in their family of psychotic breaks or schizophrenia or any of these things, they should stay away from psychedelics, because that could create that schismatic break in them. So I think it's really important that we don't go down the path where it's completely unregulated. And that's part of what Oregon's doing, is saying, well, unregulated markets create incentives for profiteering and bad actors. So why not regulate it? Why not put in strictures and rules? Why not make some taxes and set up a marketplace that works, that allows people to do these things that they're going to do anyway in a safe and secure manner, right? So I think that's the reality of what seems to be happening. Our event in Las Vegas, we have two people from one from the county commission and one from the state legislature coming to talk about psychedelics and how they see a path to a regulated marketplace for it. So I know the conversation is happening everywhere, right? It's how do you do that? I don't have the answer. I think it will be probably state level initiatives that look similar to Oregon. And then I think for us, what we see is this national model that is a clinical rollout that has really great supervision and really great standard of care and helps people get well. And you kind of balance those two things out, where if people if they're looking to get better, to increase their human performance, if they're looking to biohack themselves with psychedelics, that's one thing. And then you have these clinics for people who need supervised care and really help with getting through mental health disorders. And I think that's kind of the balance. And we just think the opportunity is humongous, because there's something like, depending on which numbers you go off, 30 to 75 million people in this country alone who need help with anxiety, depression, or PTSD. That's a humongous total addressable market. And so we think it's not only is it underserved, it's just people don't know it's possible, right? And so while we're having this conversation, 95% of the population has no idea this is going. Maybe it's 90% now, because the amount of mainstream awareness is growing. But it's still, people hear about it, they think Timothy Leary, they think, oh God, it's going to be scary, it's going to be hippies. They don't think, oh, this is rigorous science over the past 70 years has shown this is our best chance to help people with a disordered mental health. And that's where I think the huge benefit comes, and our business of mainstreaming psychedelics with this event, with our media property, allows us to then bring people to these clinics who need the help.
Yeah. You bet. All right, Matt, well, that's a great update. We're going to leave it there for now.
Thank you.
All right, thanks very much. We'll see you soon.
Have a great one.
You too. Bye for now. Delic trades on the CSE. What do they have going for them? They've applied for a dealer's license to commercialize psychedelics. These are the most recent press release headlines. They've created a ketamine toxicology test solution. They've got two-time NBA champ Lamar Odom to headline Meet Delic, an event on November the 7th. They've closed $7 million private placement with an institutional investor at 28 cents. Well, that's why the stock's at 28 cents. They just raised money at 28 cents. So, to be expected. Well, there's a total of 5 million options out at an average price of 33. There's a whole boatload at 25. So we know that management isn't going to be interested in exercising options at 25 cents when the stock's at 28. That's why that's a good price. They got until 2023 to exercise those options, 2025 in some cases. So, could be a good entry point. How much lower can it go? Well, I guess the real answer is we would look to the technicals to indicate a reversal in that pattern. Let's just quickly look at that chart again. And so far, this trend to the downside technically is intact. Fundamentals always precede technical moves, fundamental milestones. And fundamentally, the news is good. Not reflected in the share price yet. So
those last few candles have very, very long tails, which is a good sign.
Right.
There seems to be some good support in there.
Right.
And then you can see there's a trend line at the bottom from sort of there.
Yeah.
They're slightly lower, higher lows, maybe.
Higher lows, higher highs.
Yeah, exactly.
Capital structure gets a B. They got 130 million shares outstanding in total, and it's raised a lot of its money at lower prices, which always lowers the score in the capital table for me. If you can raise money at a premium, like dollars instead of pennies, that's what puts you in the realm of an A for your capital structure.